I'll tell you what, if you weren't already super hyped to talk sports cards, you definitely are now. And I know Lefty's headbanging to the rock music. He pulled a muscle reaching for a dollar box, I think. And he's here. He's here. He's got his pulled muscle and everything. Dr. Chad in the house. For those of you who don't know who we are and you're just tuning in for the first time to the Sports Card Strategy Show, I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. Lefty, who pulled a muscle in his back reaching for a dollar box, is Kendall Lefty McKee. And then we have the doctor, Dr. Crack in the Slabs, Dr. Chad Guell, representing Wisconsin. Lefty's representing Texas and Kentucky. And Graybo's Sports Cards is representing the world. Graybo's Sports Cards is a local hobby shop owned by Gray Burnett, Ryan Fitz, and Duke Denny One-Time Dotson. They're located in the Arts District of Richmond, Virginia. Graybo's has the best selection of raw and graded singles. I can actually attest to that now because I've been there. I was there a couple weeks ago in the Mid-Atlantic, and a wide variety of wax. Listeners of this show, the Sports Card Strategy Show, can receive a 10% discount on any purchase at graybos.co. They've got like some sick Trevor Lawrence rookie patch autos. They've got a Caleb Williams auto that I've seriously thought about going to graybos.co and getting the 10% off Caleb Williams auto, Bowman Chrome first. Use the promo code strategy 2023 if you want to get that 10% off. Graybos also breaks on drip 5 nights a week, including baseball, basketball, football, and even wrestling breaks. If you use the link in their IG bio, you can get a $15 credit after your first purchase on drip. You can follow all of Graybo's news and updates on Instagram at Graybos_cards. It is popping off at nooffseason.com. There's tons of people signing up for unlimited personalized advice to build your sports card investment portfolio. What you need to do is go to nooffseason.com and upgrade to premium for a free 30-day trial now. And of course, guys, I'm going to talk about this today in my win of the week a little bit, but the premium pack's on fire. I've been mailing them out all weekend. Pumped. Nothing gets me more pumped than to mail out a premium pack to a subscriber who has renewed after their free trial period. So that's great. Also, marketmoversapp.com. We use a lot of data. Pretty much all of it's from marketmoversapp.com. Great new deal there. You can get 14-day free trial plus 20% off for life using on any other products using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. So quick around the horn. We've got obviously Chad Guell breaking the third wall as he likes to do. Good morning. DKY Sports. Good morning to you. DKY Sports, this is kind of fun, actually. Like, we post the live stream is going to happen, and then people start commenting. So, like, before the show even starts, DKY Sports in the house saying hello. So, hello to DKY Sports, new audience member there. Ryan, new commenter. Ryan Boruski in the house, taking a sidecar with his a hog in a sidecar with his dad to the National. Can't wait for that. Brian Steeler 714 is a premium member on YouTube. Thank you for that support, Brian Steeler 714. Good morning. Cleo Cards premium pack is on the way. Cleo Cards is one of those who paid past their free trial period. Hopefully you're loving the product, and the premium pack's on the way to you, Cleo Cards. Thank you for your support. Oh, my shoes in the house. And Cleo Cards got theirs. Nice. All right. Got the premium pack. Hopefully you liked what was inside. A lot of packs to open in there. People like to open the packs, right, Lefty? Like, if you get Lefty, let me ask you this. If you get a premium pack for nooffseason.com, would you rather have more curated singles and slabs or more just packs to open up?
I always enjoy a good pack to open. You know, who doesn't? If you're in the hobby, ripping a card on a that comes from the mail, that's a good feeling, because that means you don't remember that you bought it or or that you're paying for it, so it just feels like it's free, and
Yeah.
you're just like, heck yeah, let's go. And then your eyes get wide as you dream about all the limited autos that could be in there, and then
Yeah.
you just do your thing, you know.
So there's some retail packs in there, but there's also some packs out of hobby boxes. So the courtesy of Graybos. So there's like 2023 Bowman packs in there. There's 2022 Prism basketball, Bowman 2023 Bowman baseball, of course. So glad everybody likes it. Get yours. Get yours today at nooffseason.com. Chad, what would you be most excited about in a premium pack from nooffseason.com? Would you want a surprise slab? Would you want some curated singles? What types of, retail packs, hobby packs, what would you like to see when you open up a premium pack from Noah? Because you're going to get one, my man. Both of you guys are going to get one coming up here.
Oh, let's go.
That's awesome. Well, the thrill of opening up a Bowman pack, looking for that Bowman first. There's not much that rivals the excitement level that you get ripping open a Bowman pack, right, Lefty?
Yeah.
So that's cool. But if somebody wanted to throw in a Ellie De La Cruz slab, that there's not much that beats that either. So it's
yeah.
Variety, man. Variety is the spice of life. I love it.
We got some Topps Chrome. Let's see. Some 2022 Topps Chrome. What is this? Series 1? I'm not sure. Hobby box. There'll be some packs of that coming. We've got some Revolution Soccer, Premier League Revolution Soccer.
Let's go.
A lot of good stuff. Anyway, thanks to Graybos for all of that. Their support with the premium packs. Shoes says packs, maybe a surprise slab and or a physical copy of that week's sports card strategy report. Okay. All right. Shoes wants to see like a printed version of the magazine of a Chad Guell article, perhaps like a little magazine format. Maybe I'll autograph it for Shoes. I'll tell you what, if you can get me that one of one Oh My Shoes patch of your curtain behind you in the show and tell show. I need a patch from your curtain, game used curtain patch. I called it wallpaper once, but I think it might be a curtain signed by you and Leslie. Then I'll get you whatever you want in your premium pack. Cause I need an Oh My Shoes one of one game used curtain from the sports card strategy show and tell.
So hey, here's the new idea. NFTs. You haven't heard much of NFTs lately. We're gonna make some like 30-second NFTs of shoes, show and tells, and we're gonna include those in these packs.
That's great. That's a great idea. Borusky says he wants those in his pack too. So good stuff coming in your.
I got some digital cards I can throw in there. I spent a wild amount on candy.com with the Fanatics digital releases.
I remember when we first met, Lefty, you were into NFTs quite a bit, as I'm sure a lot of our audience probably was.
Yeah, that nuked my portfolio.
Is that a good segue into L of the week for you?
Sure, that's an L of my life.
Okay, Lefty, you're up first for L of the week, brother. What do you have for us?
Well, I pulled my back muscle, so that's pretty much of an L. And
was it reaching for a PSA submission from the mail, or was it reaching for the dollar box, or what? You actually don't have to share.
I was carrying a Yeti cooler, and it was pretty heavy, and then I put it down, and then just getting old, Paul. You know how it is.
Yep, that happens.
I also have an L of the week that used to be I think it's an L of the week because of the way it happened. So we used to be wildly high. We, as in me and Just Baseball, then even at the beginning of this show, we used to be wildly high on Nick Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. And he made his debut over the weekend. And I think it's an L of the week for me to watch a prospect make a debut and for me to just be like, It wasn't exciting. I wasn't like, it didn't have cards ready to go. I mean, I literally have a Bowman first out of 99 Nick Gonzalez that I'm just sitting on, because I'm just like, I'm just watching it because this was one of my first investments that I made. And he just, because of injuries and all sorts of stuff, just never had the hype in the hobby. So I think it's an L of like my guy that's I really like, and it probably still has a chance to do something special, but just got pushed to the wayside because of injuries and time.
Yeah, I mean, did we see? I feel like you saw that. Like you made the call a couple years ago. I remember we first started doing the show together. He was one of your guys. You had you had him, O'Neal Cruz, Endy. I mean, the whole kind of the Pirates crew. You were a little bit higher on Endy and O'Neal Cruz, in fairness to you, but you were high on Nick Gonzalez too. But then I remember say 6 to 8 months after that, you kind of started to caution. Like there were signs. So like now that he's made his debut, is it that did you have that card listed and there's just not that much action on it, or did you not list it because he's not doing well yet, or what's kind of the main reason for your flat L on Nick Gonzalez at the moment?
So I just haven't listed this because I ended up having that in my dollar box. That's how long it had.
So it's been a long runway of fatigue with him, basically.
Yeah, and so honestly, I probably could sell that right now for something. But I think me reminding myself of some of the L's that not every prospect call that we are going to make is going to be a W. That's why it's you can't just set it and forget it. You've got to continue to dive in over the careers of these guys. Nick just kept getting hurt. It was just injury after injury after injury. And it was just he is a good player. The Pirates called him up. So, he's a good player. It's just some players aren't the darlings that the hobby darlings, and then no matter how good they are, they have to just go nuclear for people to buy their cards, so
that's the thing about prospecting that is tough. You could be right on a guy and then he still might not be
the guy that people are going after.
Yeah. And in this case, I mean, it kind of does fit. I know a lot of our listeners have similar situations, so let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat, tweet at us at NoOffSeasonCard, at Lefty McKee. Email me at paul@nooffseason.com. Share your prospect L, share your baseball prospecting L's. We want to know. I think that would be a good.
Here's a way to put this. There's one of these listed right now for $249, and it's probably been up there for a long time. And one of them just sold yesterday for $25.
Wow. Yeah. So Brian Steeler 714, I was actually thinking of him because I know he's one of our Bowman brothers. And he says that, he's making the point about Ellie being called up, having a lot of hype, and maybe Nick Gonzalez and Henry Davis getting called up kind of was overlooked by the Ellie hype. Do you guys feel like that plays a factor in when, when to sell cards? Have you seen that before? Do you think that that's legit by Brian Steeler 714 in terms of being in the news cycle, but being overshadowed by something else happening with another prospect?
Yeah, I think, I did bring up last week that Henry Davis had gotten called up or was going to get called up on the Monday. And then he came up and hit some good bombs. I think Henry actually has surprised me with what he's done at the major league level. I'm not high on him. Actually, I was lower on Henry Davis than I was on Nick Gonzalez. I think he's eventually going to get passed by Indy, but I think he's done enough for his card prices to go higher. And I've seen a lot of his stuff for sale on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. So he is moving. And so I would put both of them. I'm going to put this Nick Gonzalez card up. I'd rather make $25 than just stare at it. So, but I don't remember exactly what I paid for it because it was the first year I started investing in cards. But man, I'm sure I made an L on this.
You probably didn't pay that much.
Maybe. I don't know.
Good morning to Paul Schmitz. Buckeye Dill in the house. Good to see you. Chad Guell, over to you for your L of the week.
Well, speaking of prospecting L's, I was so high, and I still am to a certain. I still think he can turn it around. But Jazz Chisholm was, Jazz Chisholm was my Ellie De La Cruz several years ago. I just love the charismatic interviews that he does. I love the speed on the base paths. I liked the numbers that I was looking at. I thought they were going to translate into something special, and he just hasn't figured it out. He has glimpses where he does really really well, and then he just disappears for a while. But I in my one of my PSA orders, I had sent in two die cut numbered to 99 Jazz Chisholm rookie card autographs that they're for my PC. They're not, I'm not delusional thinking I'm going to sell Jazz right now and make money, but the L's were that they both came back PSA 8s. I should have left them in the top loaders and saved the $40 in PSA grades. That's my L. Sometimes when you do PC, you make stupid decisions like that. That was not a smart business decision from Dr. Crack. But I still love the cards, and they're still going back in the safe. So,
yeah, that's a good point. I said on the Sports Card Strategy Show and Tell last week that a lot of my grading decisions over the last couple of years have been made before I buy the card. In other words, like I know, like I'll say, okay, regardless of what this card looks like, I'm going to grade it. And so to your point, I'm thinking that it's probably a lot better if I become a little bit more selective moving forward. We had submissions from guys like Mosaic Joe, Farmer Joe, as our audience knows him. Mosaic Joe on Instagram. He does a great job of, like, in his Sports Card Strategy Show and Tell submissions, talking about the different intricacies of the cards and why he's grading them, why he's not grading them. I probably need to get better at that. So that your part of your comment there on them getting 8s kind of made me think of that. I think I've also talked, though, about Lefty and I have talked a lot about this, where you'll sell something on eBay and it's a raw card, and then you'll get some feedback, or somebody wants like a partial refund, or they want a full refund because they're making some comment about how it's not the condition they thought it would be, blah, 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 even though you put it in the description and there's the photos and all that. And so part of the reason why I have everything slabbed for the most part that I want to sell is because, okay, that's what it is. And so you kind of, so anyway, I think it's going to become more of a decision for me after I get the card. Now that I have the centering tool that we've talked about on the show, the 10 times magnifier, we got the pantyhose going. For those of you who don't know what's going on with the pantyhose, we're using them to clean off the cards, relax. And you can get these supplies. If you go to nooffseason.com and go to supplies, you can click on the link to the 10 times magnifier or the centering tool, and you can see what we're talking about. Okay, my L of the week. Speaking of grading cards, this is actually like my W and my L. But the reason it was what I'm talking about here is PSA has been changing their grading levels like on the fly. Really fast, which is great. I think it's because they're doing really well. They're moving cards through their system. Chad and I were talking about that before the show started, how fast our PSA submissions are moving. And they've got a bunch of deals. So there's, Lonnie Conley, friend of the show, has texted me about, like, what do I think the national deal is going to be? Is it going to go back down to under $10 a card like it's been in the past? All that stuff. Maybe, I don't know. They do a July national special. Maybe Chad has an inside track on that for us. But my L of the week related to PSA changing all of these grading levels is because I had a submission for $19 a card, and I had a second submission for $16. It used to be $16 a card a couple weeks ago. They had the 2022-2023 special. And then I was going $19 a card at anything, anything else, essentially, right? So like 2021, 1980 through 2021. basically. So I had these submissions ready to go. And then I went to go online at psacard.com to start the submission. And I noticed, okay, the $16 thing's gone. Now it's a 90s sports special. So this is the win part, right? So the win is that it's saving me a couple $100 now on that submission. But now the L part is that in order to complete the other submission, I have to go back and get more cards from the 1980s. Because I have, that's the play that I want to make. So to do the 19, like, why would I do, I guess my point is, why would I spend $19 a card on stuff from the 90s when I can spend $15 a card on stuff from the 90s and then go back and so you're probably like, why is he saying he has to get cards from the 80s? It's because I can save $4 a card by having them be. So it was the L was like rethinking and now needing to go buy more cards from the 80s to complete the other 20 card submission. But then the win obviously is I'm saving a couple $100 on at the $15 a card level. So I wanted to bring that up because there's probably a lot of you accumulating 20 cards to grade. Well, now you're in a situation where you need to pay attention to the different changes in the bulk submission levels. I think overall it's a win. You just have to be careful about, what submission you're going to make and everything like that. So that's my L and my W of the week. But Lefty, what do you think? And what's your dub of the week, man?
Yeah, I got two submissions at that $15 90s level because I mean, you guys know me, and obviously it's out there that I'm a 90s baby. So pretty much everything I have pretty much is 90s or newer. So it's just like, cool, this is a grading level for all the millennials out there. And so I was able to frick. Okay,
his
sorry.
back. Oh, his back.
Sorry.
Reaching $2 box.
It just like tensed up for a second. So my I have a win that I was able to get two grading selections in this $15. Another cool thing about this 90s one is there's not a 20 card minimum for it. There's a 10 card minimum for it. So I know sometimes that hangs people up, especially who are young in the grading, like grading and flipping, like what we do. Sometimes a $400, even if they're $15, it's 400 or so bucks to get it shipped out. And so, that's a pretty large investment for somebody who's new. But if you can get down to like 150 plus shipping, it's like, that's a lot different than a 20 more or 10 more cards.
Yep.
And so, the 90 special gives you access to the $10 or the 10 card minimum, which is really nice. And I used to say like PSA wasn't worth getting the membership, like just use somebody like me or a local card shop or something like that. But I think now it's pretty user friendly for pretty much anybody if you're grading more than one bulk submission a 6 months. And so like if you guys are really into the hobby and you're liking what you're doing and you're flipping and trading, you're listening to us, then I think an investment might be that PSA Collectors Club.
Yeah, and then like Chad said before, that you get $100 loop credit too.
Yeah.
Now.
Sorry, I do have actual wins of the week.
Yeah.
My win of the week is watching Cade Cowell get on the national team pitch this weekend at the Gold Cup. Watching him going from the United States under 20 team to this Gold Cup roster, it was just something cool to watch. He's a guy that I've been saying, like, he's a guy that's going to go overseas and do some cool stuff. He came on as a left winger and really changed the game. Jordan Morris just wasn't cutting it. And so when he got up on that left side, he changed the speed of the game. We came out with a 1-1 draw against Jamaica, which was unfortunate. But this team was doing really well after they put some fresh energy on the pitch. I think we'll see this Gold Cup roster look better the longer that this tournament is together. And I just think that the women's national team, I talk about it every week because I'm going to keep beating this drum. Like, this women's national team is worth card investments. Women's soccer is actually making a big boom here in the States. And this World Cup that starts in July is I think we're going to see one of the best rosters that we've ever seen from a United States team, and it'll be more publicized than it's ever been. And so they've already sold more tickets at the stadiums than they have over the previous World Cup. So, and like there's bars and stuff in DC that are like DC literally changed their law about alcohol sales and bar openings so that they could have bars open 24/7 during the World Cup because some of the games are like 2, 3, 4 a.m. And so like cities are changing their laws so that people can go to the bar and watch the United States women's national team play. Like that's just something special. I mean, how many other countries are changing the laws of their country so that people can watch and drink beer while they watch their women's national team play? You know, like a lot of countries aren't even promoting their women's national team, you know, and so I think it's pretty special. I think we're on the cusp of something, and it's one area in American sports where I think the plurality of the men's and women's sports is not as vast as it is in other sports. Like this is something that's worth our attention, worth our time, and something that I'm really excited about going into the summer. And obviously the win of the week is Ellie De La Cruz, just keeps doing crazy stuff. I was able to get a Tops Now card of his call up. So I got his call up card here because I thought this was going to be like just kind of a fun card to have. And then when he hit the cycle, I was like, crap, do I get that one too? Like there's just a bunch of Tops Now cards of Ellie De La Cruz. So I'm glad that a lot of us got to profit off of Ellie. I think there will be more of those to come.
Props to you, Lefty. You've been talking about Ellie before anybody, you know, at least in the hobby for sure. I mean, you've been talking about Ellie, and that's one of the great strengths of the Sports Card Strategy show. For those of you who don't know, for new listeners, is our ability to talk about baseball prospects, and Lefty is deserves all the credit for that. So good call on that.
Hey, Aram and the guys at Just Baseball deserve a lot of credit for that too. So.
Absolutely. But I mean, different types of websites. Just Baseball is a baseball prospecting site, and then you bring that knowledge to nooffseason.com, and you synthesize through all the hundreds of prospects that you guys are talking about at Just Baseball. You say, okay, these are the handful of guys that you need to be investing in the hobby, and here are the cards and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I enjoy what I do. I just wanted to give them credit too.
Absolutely. They deserve a lot of credit. And check out the last episode of the Baseball Card Strategy show a couple weeks ago.
Me and Colby were on there.
Yeah, you and Colby did a great job. We got some good feedback on. I asked the guys at Graybo's what they thought about that episode, and all of them were like, "We loved it. We loved it." So good work.
I've gotten some good feedback as well over Twitter and DMs, and people just reaching out saying like that was super helpful, and so
yeah,
I was like, thanks.
A lot of great stuff. All right, Chad, over to you for your W of the week.
My W of the week is PSA. As Paul and I were mentioning before the show started, we were talking. I've never had a bulk submission come back as quickly as I did. I was in Iowa this past weekend for my son's travel baseball. And I submitted a bulk order, like a 31 card bulk order to PSA on June 4th. They received it and checked it in on June 8th. And on Saturday, I was not here on the 24th, but I came home late last night and saw the order sitting here. It was returned to me on the 24th, checked in on the 8th, in my mailbox on the 24th. That is lightning fast. It's like SGC type speed from a big behemoth like PSA. It's unbelievable. So that my W is PSA. The other W is going to be for all of the listeners. In this 31 card order, just about every one of these is going to be for sale. I also picked up some really cool Ellie De La Cruz cards from a friend of mine. On Thursday's show and tell, you want to be paying attention, because I am going to offer all of these cards for sale after I show them in a submission on Thursday to all of our listeners at a steep discount before they get put on eBay. So if anybody's interested in some Shohei Otanis, some Fernando Tatis, some Ellie De La Cruz at discounted prices, watch the Sports Card Show and Tell.
Awesome. Love it. That's a big win of the week for the audience. Speaking of the audience, Paul Schmitz is on his way to the post office to send off a submission to PSA, including some of your plays, Dr. Chad. Borusky apparently had a Tyrese Maxey get a 10 when maybe it had a slight scratch on it, and then the buyer got mad at him. Sounds like a W and an L. And then we've got new, so either a brand new or a infrequent commenter, but Taco, welcome to the show.
Taco.
What's up, Taco? Good to see you. Thank you for watching and listening and for commenting. Taco says he grabbed a Spencer Jones from you, Lefty. From you.
Hey, I got more of them.
Because Lefty, remember Lefty's show and tell submission a couple weeks ago was like 10, 10, 10,
Yeah.
10. I was like, oh my God, Lefty killed it. That was awesome. Good work. Good work, Taco. Good work, Lefty. I was wondering the same thing, like Borusky. This is what I was going to say, and Borusky took the words out of my mouth. It's like, I wonder if they see that it's Dr. Crack Chad Guell at PSA, and they're like, all right, just give them all 10s, slab them, and get them back out to Wisconsin. Maybe. That would be amazing. If they do, more power to you, Chad.
I wish.
Nanette in the house.
I think on my next order, I'm going to put Lefty McKee on there so I get a higher 10 gem rate. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. We're killing it here, guys. Good work.
I've made one good sub in my life, okay? and it just happened to be the Spencer Jones. It was also the first one I cleaned and looked at before I sent it. So, here we go. Just further, faster, guys.
That's awesome. All right. I'm excited to talk about who I'm buying. We've talked about how this is like sports card buying season right now. We're obviously making some sales, but I think in the next, I think you'll see July and August, there'll be more in the, at least for me personally, there'll be more in the who we're selling column, just out of the strategy is really, really coming together here. But the who we're buying column for me right now, I'm actually really excited to get Lefty and Chad's take on this, as well as yours from the audience, everybody. But I wrote an article for Sports Card Investor this last week, and it was about sort of the pattern recognition of the number one overall prospect in baseball and what happens to their base Bowman Chrome first PSA 10 in the year leading up to when they're called up, and then what happens post call up. And that's part of the reason. It's not the only reason why, but it's part of the reason why I'm buying Jackson Chourio, just base Bowman Chrome first PSA 10s right now. I've been able to get like 5 of them each for like $50. And so I just, I'm excited. The play there is to hold until the call up, which he's only 19 years old, but he's expected due up in 2024, which I know like Lefty's probably thinking there's no way Paul can wait until 2024 to actually sell these cards, but I think I'm going to do it, Lefty. So I'm thinking these Jackson Chourio play here is one. And then I'm going to, before I get your guys' take on this, I'm going to talk about the other ones that I'm buying here. So I mentioned earlier the 80s cards. So I need to go back and fill out some more 80s cards for the PSA bulk submission at the $19 level now. And I'm pretty close. So what I've been buying here for the submission includes the higher floor, lower risk, slabs. So you've got a lot of CSG 8.5s and 9s. You've got some SGC 7.5s, some BGS 8.5s, where all I would lose would be the grading fee, maybe $20 or $30, worst case. But the upside of cards like the 1988 Fleer Jordan, the 1986 Topps Jerry Rice, even the 1989 Score Barry Sanders, and a new one, the John Elway rookie, Topps John Elway rookie, 84, I think, have a lot of upside. and high floor, low risk. So trying to acquire 20, I think I'm about halfway there. These are the ones that I bought last week. So Barry Sanders CSG 8.5s, 2 of them. Barry Sanders CSG 9, Jerry Rice Topps 7.5, CSG 8, and a HGA 8. And then the Jordan 88 Fleer, I've had huge success rates with that, just trying to bump up a half grade to get the profit margin that we're looking for. I've had a lot of success with those cards. What was cool though about this particular transaction, these particular transactions for me, is on the Jerry Rice 1986. I bought a couple of them off of MySlabs. And so what I like about MySlabs versus eBay is that you can get in contact with the person because you have their email address and they have your email address because you pay through PayPal. So to me, this is not a bad thing. This is actually a good thing. Like, I get why eBay doesn't want you to do this, but I like that MySlabs, you get the person's contact information. So Paul, shout out to Paul, great first name, but also a good new friend from MySlabs. Hopefully he's listening to the show. Reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got some more cards. You want to see what I have?" Sure. So I ended up getting, I already have the cards, a 2020 Topps Fire Shohei Ohtani Red Blaze CSG Pristine 10. Another card I never would have bought, a 2007 Upper Deck Premier Stitchings Albert Pujols BGS 9 serial numbered to 10. A 1995-96 Fleer Metal Michael Jordan CSG 8. A 1964 Topps 1964 Topps NL home run leaders with Hank Aaron, Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, and Orlando Cepeda. And then a 2019 super liquid card, 2018 Shohei Ohtani Topps Chrome SGC 10, all for like a super discounted price from this guy, Paul. So shout out to Paul. Just kind of a nice thing where you're not really sure what's out there until, somebody unveils what they're looking to sell, and you can get a great bulk deal even online through a new relationship versus even, having to go to a card show. So I really appreciated that. And then of course, Lefty, shout out to Lefty. This made me so happy. Lefty was texting me Friday. What was it? Thursday?
Yeah, it would have been Thursday.
NBA draft day. All day he's texting Chad and I, and it's like, you guys see these Topps Now Wemby cards? If Lefty wouldn't have texted this to me, I would have missed out. But I ended up buying the card on the left here. For those of you listening, it's a Victor Wembanyama throws out first pitch at a Yankees game, Topps Now card. And I think it's a sick card personally, but I bought 20 of them for $80, and you're looking for the parallels. So even if you get a parallel, Mosaic Joe talked about this play on one of his past sports card strategy show and tell submissions. Even if you don't get if you get a parallel, it's a huge win. But even if you don't get a parallel, I think this is a win where I just get them all graded and then flip them. And then Lefty texts me during the draft, text Chad and I about this auto. So the Victor Wembanyama, they did a Dutch auction of his auto. Now the thing I like about this card on the right, for those of you listening, he's in his green draft day suit coming up to shake Adam Silver's hand and put the hat on, is it's his first, it says first pick, but it also says it has the RC shield. Now it doesn't say anything about the team or the NBA because Topps doesn't have a deal with the Players Association or the league yet. They do for the future. It hasn't kicked in, but I think this card is super sharp in terms of having the RC, the draft day. The auto ended up selling, the lowest the auto sold for was $1,800. We all thought it was a great deal, but I bought 20 of, I didn't buy that one, but I bought 20 of the base, hoping to get a parallel, same play that I made earlier in the day, courtesy of Lefty. So I was really pumped about all these Wemby cards and hopefully being able to parlay my Wemby SI for Kids play into these Wemby Topps Now plays. So Lefty, thanks for that, man. Appreciate that.
No,
that was
I think
a lot in who I'm buying. So I'm going to hand it back over to you. But
pull the picture back up for a second. I think, interestingly enough, I think the one on the left here, the one where he's juggling baseballs, I think it was the statistics showed that it was the third most sold Topps Now card ever. And which is, I think I texted Paul and Chad and I said, this is a win and a loss for us because, and here's where my thought process is. When you look at these parallels, for instance, like the call-up card I have for Ellie De La Cruz, for some of these players, there's 1.5 million parallels, and it gets so confusing, especially with football players. There's so many different kinds of cards that they do in Chronicles and things. You're like, which one is which? Like for baseball, it's just a Bowman first auto. That's it. That's all you're looking for. And so for all these other things, there's just so many different kinds of autos with Panini. Well, I think with Topps Now, with this card having such a high like buy rate, I think this will be one of the parallels that we'll see in the hobby a lot. And the more times you see the hobby, or the more times you see it on for sale and all that kind of stuff on transactions, that's just the more opportunity people are going to desire that card and know that it's something worth paying for. I think sometimes when you get so many parallels out there, and Wemby will have 1.5 million cards, the more you have, you'll go for the one that you just know is already been sold. Like your brain just goes towards the one that you know is of a certain value. And so I think it'll be really good for us to have this card on the left, because I think there will be so many of them out there that I think that they will sell pretty commonly, similar to like the Shohei rookie card and stuff like that. That's not like incredibly valuable, but it sells a lot because it's the one that people think about. Now, this one on the right, I made this play too, where I got 20 of them and then I got 10 of the one on the left. I'm pretty excited about it with the rookie card, with the rookie shield, his Bowman first cards, the one that's coming out of the Bowman and Bowman U card or whatever. That's the Bowman U
The Inception or
cards.
the Chrome basketball?
The Chrome basketball, those or like those cards in general are going for pretty good amounts of money because they're being classified as a short print because they're not in very many blasters.
They are, because I ripped 3 hobby boxes and did not get one Wembanyama.
Yeah, so they're being classified as a short print right now. So I think they're going for a couple $100. So this rookie card shield, or this rookie shield, the fact that they put an RC logo on it, I think is going to elevate this card status. I wish that it had dipped down to 1,500 on the auto, because that's when me and Paul were buying.
Yeah, we were gonna go in on that together.
And like literally right before it happened, I was like, shoot, let's just pay an extra $300 for one. And then they were sold out. So
as soon as I refresh the screen, I'm texting Lefty, I'm refreshing the screen, and it's like sold out. I'm like, dang it. But Shoes is I think Shoes probably just went to Topps right now to see if any of these Wembanyamas were left, and I think they're all gone.
Yeah. So, but who I'm buying is these Wembanyama cards I did buy. I've been making a pretty good move towards James Wood. I actually went through my dollar boxes, which is how I found this Nick Gonzalez card. But I have a pretty significant amount of Chrome, Ellie, and James Wood in there that I'm like, oh, I didn't even know I had these. So I am pulling them out and sending them to PSA in a bulk submission. But I have quite a few prospects in there that I'm really liking. And so James Wood is my next Ellie, and I've been very clear about that. I've been telling everybody else about that. And so that'll be in the next 12 months, guys. So don't miss it. Let's just balls to the wall. But one thing that I am really, really hoping for in the offseason that I have enough bankroll to go after is a Jackson Holliday card. He's just been refreshed as MLB just refreshed their data in terms of who's the number one prospect, and Ellie doing all that he's doing in the major leagues still has him at number 2, which I think is horrendous, by the way. But they have Jackson Holliday at number 1. And if you guys look at the baseball card strategy show that we did with Colby, all the metrics that we looked at, all the filters we put it through, for good buys in the hobby, Jackson Holliday came up number 1 in every one of those categories. And so this guy's young. He has the pedigree. He has the name value. He was the number 1 overall draft pick. So it's going to be a really high buy-in on his autos. But I'm just going to send it. I think he's going to be a guy that everyone is just going to gravitate towards. And when he makes the majors, it's going to be a scene. And so whether I like him or not or whatever, I want to make money off of it. I don't want to miss out on the money that I could have made on Ellie De La Cruz because I didn't go as much into it as I wanted to because the cards were priced high at the very beginning. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to wait for them to go down. Well, Ellie's prices never went down. And I was left holding, a melting snow cone. So I'm just going to really work hard this offseason to acquire one or two Jackson Holliday autos, and that's what I'm going to do. So James Wood and Jackson Holliday are my next Ellies.
James Wood, Jackson Holliday. Don't miss out on the next Ellie De La Cruz's, courtesy of Lefty McKee. I said earlier that I was buying Jackson Chourio base PSA 10s. So yes, Borusky, just the PSA 10s. I'm doing that because they're super cheap, and it was kind of like, okay, am I going to do a Dr. Chad buy raw and submit? Well, when you run the numbers and you're like, okay, by the time I get the raw card, it's going to be around $15 including shipping per card, and then it's $15 to grade it. Now you're $30 in. Well, if you could just, and then you have to factor in there is some cost per card to ship them back to you. We never really talk about that because it's like minimal, but now you're up around $40. Well, you could just buy the PSA 10 and ensure that you're getting a 10, right? So that's why I'm buying the 10s. I think with Holliday, he's a little bit different. I'm super interested. The reason I say that is because as I was buying these Chourios, I was thinking, should I be putting this money into Jackson Holliday instead? So I'm glad that you said that.
The answer is yes.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask that for myself, but also mainly for the audience, because I'm talking about Chourio. There's also Holliday. There's also James Wood. I mean, it's hard to pick between these guys when you're trying to hit the next Ellie. So you're saying Holliday over Chourio right now.
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Chad, over to you, man. What do you agree, disagree with Holliday over Chourio and James Wood? And what do you do with all these prospects?
I don't know if people are going to believe us, but we really don't rehearse any of these live shows.
We don't at all.
We don't plan on it. We just talk, right? So I'm going to agree and disagree a little bit with both of you, but all weekend while I was sitting at the baseball tournament, I'm on my phone in between games buying cards because that's just what I do, right?
Of course.
And I have been buying, and I will continue to buy Jackson Chourio. I'm not focusing on the autos. I'm doing like I did with my Ellie De La Cruz's, which I made some pretty significant coin off of. I am focusing on the Bowman Chrome First prospect base cards because you can get them cheap. And, the Ellie's popped off. When he popped off, they popped off at $125 a piece.
Yep.
I don't think that we'll see too many prospects hitting that level. I mean, typically they're in that $60 to $80 level for a normal prospect when they get hot. Ellie is just kind of a once in a, decade type player. But Jackson Chourio, I believe that if you can get them for $5 to $6 a piece, which is what I bought, probably almost 30 of them this weekend. If you're patient and watch eBay and just take your time and don't overreact, you can get them for $5 to $6 a piece, including shipping. So I did that. James Wood is the other guy. That's why I said that we didn't plan this, but James Wood is the other guy that I have been buying significantly for about 2 months now. I'm buying any base Chrome First that I can get my hands on for the $5 to $6 range. Most of his stuff is 10 to 11. So you really gotta watch and snipe the auctions. I was able to get about 8 of them this weekend at about $5 to $6 a piece by sniping auctions. And then the other guy I'm buying based on I almost felt like I slept on this, and for a couple of weeks now I've been thinking to myself, Chad, you should have wrote an article on this. I've been thinking about it for a while. I haven't written an article. I kind of felt like I missed the boat because his prices have already come up about 25% in the last 6 months. But I decided to go all in on him over the weekend. And I bought significantly expensive cards of his, and that is Russell Wilson. My football card guy that I rely a lot on my football data said to me, Chad, don't worry about where his card prices are now. He said they will rise. He said Sean Payton is the closest thing to a Bill Belichick that there is. He's never not been successful anywhere he went, and his quarterback play, is just out of this world. He is going to take Russell Wilson, and Russell's going to have. He said, I'm putting money on in Vegas. He said, significant. He said, matter of fact, I bet 10 grand. And I'm like, 10 grand? He goes, yeah, 10 grand. He said, I bet 10 grand in Vegas that Russell Wilson's going to have his best year of his career this year. I said, you can bet money. I'm not a better.
All those prop bets are pretty crazy.
Yeah. But he put 10 grand that it's going to be Russell Wilson's best statistical career, best year of his career.
Wow.
I said, "Holy crap!" Well, if you're
going to any one time's going to do a Russell Wilson bet.
I don't know. He said, if you're gonna put that kind of significant money on it, then I'm gonna go out and buy a couple of his cards. So, I bought a purple chrome, Topps Chrome purple refractor, numbered over the weekend. I bought an orange parallel of his Topps Chrome. I bought a auto, and then I bought several of his just base, $10 a piece base cards that I'm going to send in and get graded. But Russell Wilson
Wilson FOMO is about to start happening huge. We got some questions that we'll get to later on in the app here about Russell Wilson. So this is great, Chad.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing, the other comment I'm going to make is on the Jackson Holliday. I do not own a Jackson Holliday card. I wish I had some, to Lefty's point. His base first chrome sells for $30 raw. I just don't know if I want to. He is hyped. He's probably going to be as hyped as Ellie when he comes up. The problem is, I just don't think he's as good as Ellie De La Cruz. I think the hype is way greater than the product. So I am staying away from Jackson Holliday, and I'm going to stick with Chourio and Wood.
Yeah, so I'm kind of with you on this. Like Lefty saying Holliday over Chourio would push me over the edge into buying Holliday, but I'm so invested already in like 5 prospects that I feel like just adding another guy, even if it is Jackson Holliday, automatically decreases my chances at profit margin. Because this is still something I'm trying to figure out my own formula of, like, how many athletes can I have in my portfolio at any one time? I feel like I have to move off people in order to move other people in. More on that later at nooffseason.com and everything. But I think it's fascinating. This is what keeps me pumped about everything that we're doing. So Chad, before we move on here, anything else on your buying?
No, those are the 3 guys that I'm buying right now. I agree with everything Lefty said, and I wish I had some Holliday. I just don't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah,
maybe
that's why
maybe in the off season.
That's why I'm waiting for the off season. Just to be clear, like his prices are inflated, and they will be inflated the whole time, just because of who he is. I mean, just like Khalil Watson's prices are not where they should be, because like he was the number one guy in that product, even though he is terrible, or he's actually having a resurge, by the way. So Khalil might be a guy worth investing in, but
wait, I never thought I would ever hear you say that.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, your card gets so low that it's like, well, I might as well give it a shot,
Yeah.
And so, but anyway,
like with Chourio, there is an asterisk with Chourio, and that is he's so young, and I believe that he is going to be phenomenal. But he has struggled at the AA level, and that has caused people to kind of pause with, I mean, his cards were just climbing. They've pulled back a little bit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I think if he continues to struggle through the summer, you could see his cards drop a little bit between now and the off season. Which is why I'm sticking with the non-graded, because you can't get hurt at $5 a piece. Those $50 cards, if they drop to 25 or 30, that then Paul's going to want to panic and pull the trigger and take a loss. Whereas if those $5 cards go to $2, nobody cares because it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
I am waiting to send those in. I'm also going to wait and send them in for grading in the off season as well. There's no need to rush and get them in now. If they sent in some sort of $10 play for ultra modern, I might consider that. But at the $19 level, I'm just going to continue to hold, because I do think grading is going to continue to get cheaper and cheaper as these companies start competing with each other. The CSG news was huge over the weekend. And I think that they're doing that because the partial ownership with Michael Rubin. I think you're going to see in the next year or so, you're going to see some sort of Fanatics play with CSG, and that's really going to put the pressure on PSA. And when that happens, I think you're going to see PSA drop their prices even further to keep that machine rolling.
Nice. And the news you're talking about is just the two like brands merged into the one brand, right? Where they've had like CCG and CSG. They basically just like combined the brands, or was it more than that?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. They combined it. They redid their grading scale, which people are laughing and saying that they got the playbook out of Beckett, because they went with a black label, pristine. They went with they got rid of the subgrades. So it's a little bit like the Beckett news. Now everybody's waiting to see if they pull it back like they did Beckett. They're doing a nice. You can send in any of your cards. They'll actually upgrade your 9.5s to 10s if they have certain subgrades. I didn't read all the news, yeah. But the biggest news I was talking about is all of the, where I talk where there's smoke, there's fire. All of the news talking that the reason that they're redoing these grading scales and combining is because of Fanatics. Michael Rubin has a large share in that company. So the smoke that's generating and billowing in the hobby right now is that it's looking like CSG is going to be the company that takes care of Fanatics grading when that rolls out. Yeah. It's all rumors at this point. Nobody really knows, but it would make sense. And that's why they're combining and regrading. And because within the next year, the hobby is expecting you're going to see some sort of announcement with CSG and Fanatics.
Here's what I like about the subgrades going away. Or the older, I should frame it this way. What I like about CSG changing even more, because they just changed their slab design, their label and slab design last year. Now they're changing again. Now we'll have like multiple eras of CSG old slabs listed on eBay and My Slabs and other marketplaces that we could in theory go out and get for lower prices because they're the older slabs, and then crack those and send those into PSA. So there's a little bit of something in it for everybody here, depending on your angle.
The negative part of that is when they switched to their current label, they gave a little bit of a deal to send in to get regraded or get reslabbed. This new one now, it's $5. You send in your old slab. It can be the green label or the current label, and they'll reslab it for $5 in their new label when it comes out.
Yeah.
That's so cheap that I think you're going to see a lot of people doing that.
Could be. Just muted yourself, Chad. We're going to move.
Sorry. Yeah, let's move on.
We're going to move on to Lefty for who you're selling. I'm not selling anybody yet. I'll talk about who I'm selling in the next episode, because next episode's in July. I'll be selling more people in July. So Lefty, who are you selling, man?
Well, I mean, I'm starting to get partial wins on these Spencer Jones submissions. So I'm selling them pretty low or under comps, really. Just because under comps for me is still a win right now because of what I paid for them. So I'm selling these PSA 10s for I think $70 is what I projected. I'm selling them for underneath that because I'm going to turn all that profit back in and do it again. So, so I'm still just making plays. And I just wanted to shout out Turner Schaus. He's a guy that I've been talking to pretty regularly. He's a guy that's here in Lexington with me, but listens to our show. We go to the same church actually, but he listens to our show every week. And he's always texting me about card advice and stuff. And he was like, yeah, I think that I want to start making a bankroll and start, trading cards pretty commonly and trying to go from dollar cards to $100 cards. And I was like, dude, that's what I did. Like, I literally did that exact same thing from me and Paul. And like back in the old days where we were just hustling out here, like trying to make horrible moves, but it worked, because we kept our mill to the grindstone, if you will, and so I just want to shout out Turner. I think he's going to make big plays over the next couple of years. Maybe we'll look for him getting on the show with baseball at some point because I'm kind of building my own little prodigy here. And Turner's going to make big wins over the next couple of years. He's a college student here in Lexington, and I think that he's going to be pretty big in the hobby someday. So
grow the nooffseason.com sports card strategy show, fam. Lefty, good work. Good work.
So I'm not necessarily selling, but I'm always selling something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always got a few cards listed and whatnot, and I did just sell a bunch of Bowman Chrome University basketball over the NBA draft, but it wasn't like it was more like just trying to build back up what I lost from getting crushed on the rips. It's not like it wasn't like strategic selling. So that's to clarify what I meant by I'm not selling anything. I'm strategically going to start listing cards for sale in July and August that I'll talk more about at that time. So we've got some audience questions that have come in during the show. So we got quite a few to get through, but Chad, who are you? We don't miss anybody here. We're going to get to every question. Chad, who are you selling though first?
I'm going to take my marketing degree here and I'm going to sell what Lefty just offered. So Sports Card Strategy Show internship with Lefty McKee on Bowman University. If you want your own personal become an intern of Lefty McKee, we can make that happen here at the Sports Card Strategy.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's what we're selling. We're selling Lefty.
That's what Turner is, honestly. I mean, like, he literally is bringing me slabs of Michael Jordan's 7.5 SGCs. I've cracked 2 of them this week that he's bought, and then we're shipping them off to PSA. Like, I mean, he's full in, Dr. Crack. Don't even think it's only a Kendall McKee or a Lefty McKee internship. This is a no off-season internship.
No off-season internship. Email Paul at nooffseason.com about a nooffseason.com internship. Now that I know Lefty wants to take on interns, we got more capacity here that we can build up the team. So this is awesome. Good stuff. So
I'm selling Lefty McKee.
Yep, Lefty McKee. I'm buying as much Lefty McKee as I possibly can buy right now. All right, so we've got some great audience questions to get to. I want to get to Brian Steeler 714 first because he's a great supporter of the show, and we're going to get to everybody else as well. But Brian Steeler 714 asks, he has 2 Bowman questions. First, do you have a cutoff price for Bowman first auto colors? For example, $300 to $400 for a raw gold auto or $200 for a blue? If so, what are yours? What are yours for true colors? Lefty, let's go to you. Do you and your interns have an answer for this one?
I don't necessarily have a bold cutoff. What I do is I just look at what the current price is. I look at their current comps, and then I try to offer between 60 and 70% lower than that in case it does give me a little bit of margin. I know that's what card shops do, and so that's what I try to do. But sometimes when I really believe a card is going to go up, I will buy for whatever they're selling it for. Most people are smart enough in the hobby to know where their comps are at.
Yep.
And most of the time they know what they can come down to, and so most of the time when things are listed on eBay, that's not exactly what they'll take for it. And they just list it up there hoping that somebody will buy it, but they're actually about 70% of that is what they want, and so I always offer lower.
Yeah, you're also really good at like understanding what the recent comps are and not overpaying, based on that. And I think it's important to note in Brian's question that a lot of times, I mean, Brian probably already knows this, but a lot of times the seller is stuck on what they paid for it and they're not going to go under a certain price. And I think that's where like I've overpaid in the past, probably from a seller that wasn't going to take less than a certain amount. And I just wanted the card. But then that's where like, I think we started talking maybe 8 or 9 months ago about like, I'm just losing money when I do that. You just lose money. So unless you want to keep the card, that's a bad play. And I think with the colors, that's easy to do because the colors, there's going to be less comps. There's going to be more. You're going to talk yourself more into the card going up. So I'm glad Brian asked the question because for the rest of the audience, it's like, don't talk yourself into the value of the card going up. Like, yes, it's a color. Yes, it's short printed, has serial number. That's great. It's going to be more rare, etc. But still look at the comps, still try to come in, like Lefty said, under the comps to leave yourself some margin. Brian's second question is, do you use a Bowman multiplier chart? And if so, which one? Filmington's seems reliable. Can you explain for everyone, including myself, what is this? What does this mean?
So with rarities going up, with rarities levels being exponentially like more valuable than the next, there is a Bowman scale. There is several Bowman scale charts out there that have multipliers based off of what the parallel is. I have used one before, but I think the more you do it, the more you kind of have it in your head, but more than you realize that. So Brian, like you're listening to these shows all the time. I'm assuming this isn't the only card content you're consuming. I'm assuming you're also on eBay and stuff pretty regularly. There is somewhat of a multiplier that you already have in your head, like that you are already putting together. So don't always trust other people more than your own intuition, because I think a lot of times you being the plural you, like any of you, you know what is a good and bad deal. You're just not willing to listen to that little voice inside of your head sometimes. And so I will say that I have used a multiplier. Sorry. I've used a multiplier chart before and have profited off of it, but I've also done my own thing and obviously profited off that as well. But yeah, there was one more thing I was going to say about the last question, but I can't remember exactly what it was. So we'll just keep going.
Okay.
Oh, I do remember. We're getting further away from that 2020, 2021 bubble, and where people bought in heavily into a lot of different cards and then didn't have a lot of margin to move from. And I'm seeing a lot more negotiation now than I have the last couple of years. And so what I'm thinking is that bubble really, when everybody was buying up here and then all of a sudden cards were down here, like no one had a lot of margin to move unless they were taking losses. And so I think now you're seeing that as less of a reality. I think people are now buying in at reasonable levels and then selling at reasonable levels rather than being forced to either take a loss or be forced to sell you something over comps because they can't come down on it. I think now you are seeing a negotiation enter back into the scene. So like at the National this year, I expect prices to be a lot more negotiable than they have been previously.
Love it. Great insight. All right. So before we get to the premium member questions, this person's username got me excited here. Projectile Dysfunction is a new commenter on the show. Love the username. He says, call me crazy, but I've been picking up Derek Carr PSA 10 rookies, an average of $32 all in.
That's a great play, I think.
Lefty says, great play. Chad, what do you think? You were talking about Russell Wilson. Is Derek Carr in the mix for you? A play like this for Projectile Dysfunction?
Yeah, $32 for a PSA 10 for a guy with established career. That's easy play to make. Most you can lose is $32, right? We've lost way more than $32 on a lot of our plays.
Absolutely.
But Carr kind of Carr's kind of at the bottom right now. That's about the cheapest I think his cards have been in a long time. So you got nowhere to go but up with that.
Yeah. And I think is he 2012? So he's got Topps Chrome and Prism, perhaps. There might be a couple
Yes.
different plays there. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So moving on to the premium member questions, and we'll get to you, Borusky and Shoes. I see you guys in the comments, so we'll get to you. But we're going to move along to Christopher Ortiz, premium member from Tijuana, Mexico. Hope you're all doing well. Loving the content, especially when Lefty talks about prospects. Not sure if you ever guys talk about do's and don'ts selling on social media, Instagram and Twitter mostly. If you have, it would be great if you could point me in the right direction to listen to the episode. If you have, we're going to answer it right now, Christopher. That's why it's here. So the do's and don'ts for selling on Instagram and Twitter versus eBay. He says, I know there's a lot of risk on eBay, but I'm not sure if I'm missing out on a lot of customers. Not only the ones in eBay asking me to go off platform, most likely scammers, but I could probably reach a lot of buyers on social as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the question, Chris. We appreciate it. Chad, let's start with you. What do you think of this question from Chris?
I think it's a great question for somebody starting out and not knowing any better. Anytime anybody ever asks me to go off platform, I'm done talking. I won't sell them the card even at full list. I have no use for somebody that's trying to do that because they are most likely trying to be a scammer. If you want to buy cards from me and we have an established relationship, and you want to message me and say, hey, would there be any type of chance we could sell? That's different. But if it's my first time I've ever met a guy and he's right away going, hey, will you go off platform? The answer is no. Disappear, fella. I have no interest in selling to you. As far as do's and don'ts, always make sure that you're using, especially with early transactions until you have an established relationship, use something like PayPal with goods and services. Do not allow somebody to talk you into going friends and family because there's no recourse on something like that. So if you are selling on Instagram or Twitter or a site that has no protection, make sure that you're using a service like PayPal with goods and services. Costs you a little bit more, but yeah, at least then you have protections if you do get scammed.
Totally agree. Only thing I have to add is that I mentioned earlier in this episode, I did go off platform on my slabs with Paul. The reason I did that is because, I'm kind of vetting people as we go. Right. So, if the communication is natural and flowing well, and I know that I can use PayPal goods and services, that's a situation where I will not go off platform from eBay, right? Because to me, that's just too risky. Like if you're on like eBay, their algorithm is so good at catching that stuff. It's just not even worth losing your eBay account in any way, shape, or form from people messaging you on eBay. Like that's just not even worth it. My slabs is a little bit different in that, like I said earlier, you get their email address, they get your email address. If they reach out to you and you feel good about the person, then it kind of becomes the same as doing business on social media. And then, like Chad said, just PayPal goods and services all day. Like that's the only thing I will use. If somebody says Cash App or Zelle or Venmo or something, no, I'm doing PayPal goods and services for that. Unless I know it's Lefty McKee, I'm going to Venmo Lefty McKee. I'm going to Venmo Chad Guell. If I know you, I will Venmo you or PayPal friends and family you, but that's it. Lefty, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I probably sell on social media more than I would assume more than anybody else on this show.
Way more than me. Yeah.
And so I actually have a pretty good respect for it. I use friends and family. I use goods and services. I use Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, all that stuff. Typically, it always is just I got a hell of a deal on 2 Colt Keiths because I was willing to, do some social media deals. And honestly, I was a little bit nervous about that one because I was like, the guy's giving me, especially under comps, he went quiet for about 30 minutes. I was pretty nervous, but I was like, this is such a good deal. I think I'm going to risk it. And he had he had an actual profile. Like it wasn't like, I sell a lot on Twitter and a lot on Facebook. And so if you have a guy on Twitter that has a card shop or is a person that's buying and selling regularly in the hobby, he can't afford to not because I can just like start spamming like this guy's not credible on every post or whatever. He can't really afford that. And so if you are building a reputation on Twitter or social media as a card dealer, you will have like this societal thing that is going, like you have the societal pressure to keep your end of the deal. And so sorry, it got my back muscle was tensing up, but I think that Twitter is where I would buy and sell. I always usually like to sell stuff on Twitter first, and then so if I have a card that's extremely hot, like if I had an Ellie De La Cruz that was popping off a couple of weeks ago, I probably would have listed it on Twitter first. And then because you can get rid of the 13.5% fee if you're selling on, even if you have to take a under comp, like sometimes it's just easier to move on Twitter. You're getting the payment right away most of the time. And so that's what I do for bigger cards. But for smaller cards, I use eBay because eBay is the most viewership. Like I have like 4,000 or whatever views on Twitter, and I can have like 40,000 on eBay. So, like it's just more people, and it's the marketplace where people are going to look for cards. So I use both, but I probably more regularly sell on eBay. I buy a lot from social media, but I sell a lot from eBay.
Okay. Great clarification. Thanks to Chris for the question. This is from Ian Forster. UFC question. Big UFC fan, starting to grow my collection of UFC cards. What are the best UFC cards to invest in right now, especially with a few big upcoming events like 290, 291? What is your stance on cards of retired fighters such as Chuck Liddell, Anderson Silva, and the recently retired Amanda Nunes? Is it worth it to invest in these fighters' cards, even though they won't make any more appearances in the octagon? And on the other side, what do you think about the recent rookie classes and their UFC cards, especially Hasbullah Magomedov, since similarly to the retired greats, he will never make an appearance in the ring? Let me know your thoughts. Okay, Ian. So thanks for the question. Paging Dr. Chase Krim, the other doctor of sports cards, not the original Dr. Chad Gill, but the doctor of UFC, Chase Krim. Ian, I replied to you already, and I said that Chase wrote a great article at nooffseason.com, essentially answering the first part of your question. Chase's article at nooffseason.com talks about the upcoming fights and the plays to make, the cards to buy. I encourage all of you to check that out. Chase also talks about Conor McGregor being on a show where he's a coach on the show. And so because of that, I could see other monitoring whether or not Chuck Liddell, Anderson Silva. I don't follow the UFC world well enough to know if they've already been coaches on the show or if they're going to be coaches on the show. I think that could be a play because that brings them back out into the spotlight. I do know that Amanda Nunes is someone that has a huge following and is probably going to be, probably not the way that I would answer this question without knowing a ton about UFC is that these retired fighters are probably safer buys in the respect that their card's probably not going to drop a whole lot, but they're probably not going to spike as much, similar to what we see in other sports with retired legends and stuff. Personally, I think the whole Hasbullah stuff is I just completely ignore that. I personally would never touch that card or go after that. That's just me. There's too much else going on, even just in the UFC world, let alone the rest of sports cards. But love the UFC question. Thanks, Ian. Hopefully my answer helps. Kendall or Chad, do you have anything else to add to UFC here?
I do like UFC. I was way into it at one point, but then I think the circulation of fighters just got me a little bit null. But I will say, in UFC 291, I think is the 291 is the second one that you talked about, 290 and 291. Mm-hmm. 291 has Dustin Poirier in it. He's probably a guy that I would be interested in. He's a guy that's number 13th pound for pound fighter, number 2 lightweight division. And he's a guy that I would be interested in if I was going to make an investment in the next 2 UFCs. I looked at UFC main card for for 90, and I just didn't like what I was seeing. And just a quick look at 291, I'm like, yeah, Dustin Poirier would have been the guy that I chose to make a card investment in. I also think this is from Turner, by the way. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I think there was there are cheeky opportunities to make money in ring sports based on the celebrity fighting that's going on. And I think it's a little more riskier, obviously, but we had Turner recommend the Jake Paul fight against the guy that fought Conor McGregor. Doesn't matter now. Regardless, I think there are other plays you can make around ring sports as well, like the Hasbulla stuff. I think there is margin for some of that, but I think it's more for people that are PCing rather than investing. You're not going to see a guy invest in a Hasbulla card, but you will see a guy collect a Hasbulla card.
You're talking about Floyd Money Mayweather?
No.
Didn't he fight Jake Paul?
I think so.
All right. Anyway, so sorry, Lefty, I'm going to cut you off. Chase Krim says Alexander Volkanovski is a guy to look at, and Michael Chandler. So if you go to nooffseason.com,
Nate Diaz.
Okay, Nate Diaz. All right. We got it straightened out. Our UFC scrambling to answer the UFC question. Good stuff though. Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely out of our wheelhouse as the three of us.
Out of our wheelhouse, but willing to do the research, willing to put it in the time for the audience. Some other sports card podcasts do not do that. We do that. And let's move on. So Robert DeVito purchased the centering tool and magnifying tool to help me select good cards to send off for grading. For prepping the cards to be sent off, I hear people clean the cards. How does one do this or should go about cleaning them? Products used, tools, etc. I recently subbed for the free months of premium, but no worries. I will 100% be opting in for the full year. Been only a week and the insight has been amazing at nooffseason.com. Excited to turn a love into something that can produce me income. Love it, Robert. Thank you for your support. I'm going to turn this over to the grading doctor, Chad Guell, to elaborate, because this is his wheelhouse. This is all of his content right here. So who better to hand it over to than Dr. Chad?
Well, thanks for the question. I covered a lot of that in the show and tell last week in terms of how I prep my cards. When you hear people talking about cleaning cards, there are actual, Brusky nicknamed me the sports card doctor or Dr. Crack. But there are actual companies out there that will physically alter cards. We don't recommend them, but that's where you're getting into. There's people that use cleaning supplies, waxes, floor cleaners, all kinds of goofy stuff. When you hear in the hobby talking about cleaning cards, to be legit, to be pure, to be a purist in the hobby, all you need is pantyhose, a microfiber towel, or a terry cloth, something that's not going to scratch the surface of the cards. Always clean from the middle to middle out, never come back against the outside edge of a card. And that's really all you're going to need to do to clean a card. You don't want to get into some of these doctor type things where they're adding card. Vintage is really where it's big. They'll actually take a rounded corner on a vintage card. They'll take another vintage cardboard to make sure that the cardboard and the smell and everything is consistent, and they'll form a perfect corner and then repaint the card. And these guys, they're pretty good at it, but the grading companies are too. They can sniff that out. So don't pay for the services. It's not worth it.
Love it. All right. This is cool. So Oh My Shoes is asking a question through the website during the show, and there's an auction ending in 8 minutes. Shoes, we love you so much. We're pausing everyone else's questions, which we're still going to get to. But Shoes wants to know if he should bid on this, Chad. Don't snipe him. 2022 Leaf in the game used ringleaders Steph Curry out of 25. It says pop 1 of 1, which don't always believe what you read there on the eBay listing. I mean, it might be, but it might not really, mean anything. So this ends in less than 8 minutes. 5 bids on it, $67. Shoes wants to know what would your top bid be for this right now?
$1. I wouldn't take that card for any amount of money. That I've talked about the Leaf products before. I'm selling out of I bought some Leaf cards just simply because they were too cheap and too good to be true. A 2022 Steph Curry Leaf product numbered to 25. First of all, that's one of the highest numbered series cards of Leaf I've ever seen. Leaf normally is like numbered to 4, 6, 8. They're extremely low serial numbered cards for Leaf. It's a non-licensed product. It's not a PSA 10 grade. You guys can disagree with me if you want, but I wouldn't touch that card anywhere near that amount of money.
I agree. Leave it, Shoes. Better ways to spend your money. Shoes was going to maybe bid $80 on it. Just leave it alone, Shoes. Thanks for the question. We love you, man. Keep them coming. All right, moving on to
buy a Spencer Jones PSA 10 for $60 from me instead.
Yep, there you go. Lefty's leaving meat on the bone for you there too. Pre-call up. We don't know when the call up's going to be, but that card's going to go up when he does get called up. Robert DeVito, another question. When posting on eBay, what is the best day, times, length, or auction, etc.? I did hear one of the podcasts that the card doc, Chad Guell, does promote auctions as well. I think that was our overflow show. We talked about that. But Chad, kick us off on this one too. And then Lefty, I want to hear your thoughts as well. This is a great question. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, so the promoting we kind of all disagreed on. I was a little bit different than you guys. I never promote a buy it now listing. I always promote a auction listing. Majority of what I sell is buy it nows. I don't do a ton of auctions, but the idea behind it for promoting is it brings more eyeballs to it. And when you start an auction at $1, that gets a lot of eyeballs to begin with. Because if a card's supposed to be worth, say, $100 and it's at $1, you're going to get a ton of views because everybody's thinking that maybe this could be the one that they get for $8 and they make their $90 flip, right? So you get a lot of eyeballs. And then when you promote it, it comes to the top of the page and search for all these people. You're going to take a card that maybe would have had 1,000 views and you're going to turn it into 10,000 views. That just makes the odds of that auction bringing top money, it increases that exponentially. So that's why I promote auction style listings and I do not promote buy it nows. It does help if the card that you're trying to promote actually has some desirability. If you go and you try and promote a card that has nobody's interested in it, promoting it's not going to help. So it's got to have, promoting an Ellie De La Cruz card might not be the smartest thing because there's so many people looking for that right now. But
what is Lefty laughing at? What are you laughing at? This eBay link that you put in the chat under me and then I put it up on the screen. What is this? Are you laughing at Borowski's dad jokes? What's going on?
I'm sorry, Chad. I tried to post my eBay listing for shoes in the chat.
Here's his listing, everybody. Here's his list. Buy this Spencer Jones card from Lefty.
And the funny thing was it posted it as a sports card strategy because I forgot I'm an admin. No, and then it posted it. I was like, frick. And then you clicked on it.
Because I'm like, well, I forgot that if I click on it, it's gonna show to everybody. Who cares? Look, there's Lesty's list. Everybody go look at it.
Right now it's at $5. Much better auction. Much better auction than the Steph Curry thing.
That was great insight by Chad.
I'm sorry, Chad.
I was just gonna add to Chad, the thing, Robert, that I would add is that to me it's totally card dependent. It's totally player dependent. So for example, when I'm very intentional around the card that I'm buying, and I'm thinking already when I'm gonna list it, when I'm buying it. Example being my Victor Wembanyama plays, listed 90% of them during the week of the draft lottery, and then listed the rest of them last week during the NBA draft. Listed them to end right as he was being announced as the number one pick, or after, better yet, like a few minutes after, right? Because then, and I don't use eBay's scheduling tool. I actually will mark my calendar and go list them manually at the time that I want them to end, say 7 to 10 days prior. Typically I'm doing 10-day auctions just because I like giving myself and the eBay audience an extra 3 days to see the card. So typically I'm a 10-day auction guy. I'm not a buy it now guy. I'll only list buy it nows if I just am itching to list the card, but like don't want to sell it under a particular price. But I very rarely do that. I'm pretty much a 10-day auction guy. Depending on the card, I'm listing it 10 days to the minute before I want that auction to end based on an event in real life, whether it be an expected call up hype for a prospect, whether it be the beginning, like maybe it's an NFL preseason game, maybe it's the beginning of the NFL season, the beginning of the NBA season. We talked about UFC fights, like if it's a UFC fight, 7 to 10 days prior to the start of the UFC fight. So hopefully you go buy Lefty's Spencer Jones card, and hopefully that answer makes sense to you. Up next, Brian Hunt, premium member. How do you ship your submissions to PSA? Regular mail, registered mail, insured, some other way? So I want to quickly answer this. Chad answered this on the Sports Card Strategy Show and Tell last week, so I won't drag Chad through another thing that he's already answered. You guys can go back and check that out. But Brian, I will say that I have been quote unquote screwed on over insuring packages, not from a cost standpoint. But what I think, so I think Brian was a little nervous. Yeah. So he said as of 6/20, his package that he had mailed a week earlier had already been through two post, or more than a week earlier, which is already a long period of time, had already been through two post offices because he had insured it for $2,000. Here's why that happened. When you insure a package at the US Post Office for that amount, and I'm not saying don't do this, I'm just saying when you do this, it takes it to a level of insurance where only certain USPS personnel are authorized to sign that package in and sign it out. And it makes sense if you think about that. But the reverse effect of that is that now it's so much slower to get to its destination because they're literally waiting for Jane or Malcolm or whoever has that supervisor level to sign that package in and out. They're waiting for them to get there. Maybe it arrives at 3 a.m. one day. Maybe Malcolm doesn't show up for work till 48 hours later. He's the only one at that location that can sign that package in and sign that package out. So that's why. And the reason I know this is because I shipped like a $5,000 insured to the PWCC vault a few years ago. And I was freaking out because it wasn't moving through the USPS system. So Brian, I wouldn't worry about it. Your cards are insured. They're going to get there. But what sucks about it is that when you do it for that insurance level, it could take like weeks to get there. When if you don't insure it, of course, they're not insured. So if something happens, you could get screwed. But they could get there in like 3 days. So it's like, hopefully they're there already, Brian. But if they're not and you're listening, I still wouldn't worry about it. I think they're going to get there. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but
yeah, what Paul is saying is almost spot on. With the insurance doesn't make it in itself go to certain hands. I think what Paul's trying to is with the registered mail. So registered mail gets stayed under lock and key.
yeah.
So if like I insure my packages and those go through the regular mail, that doesn't slow it down. Anybody grabs it, throws it in the bin and moves on. They don't care how much insurance is on the package. It's with the registered mail, I think is what Paul was saying. And it's literally because they get locked up in a storage facility at each post office. Yep. And they only have one person at that post office that has the ability to sign that package in and out. That's what makes it's the most safest way to send an expensive package, but it takes 2 to 3 times longer.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Chad. Okay. Kenny Breel, premium member, says, I've held onto a couple Christian Encarnacion Strand Bowman Chrome autos, and his market has been heating up. I've sold one out of $499 this week and currently have an out of $250 up for auction on eBay. Throw the link out. Lefty will throw the link out for you. I have a out of $499 PSA 10, out of $150 Shimmer PSA 9, out of $499 Raw, and out of $199 Raw left. I know it's up to me if I want to take advantage of the massive spike right now, but what are your thoughts on holding until he gets called up? Will I see a significant return? I saw an out of $499 PSA 10 sell for $750. Kenny, thanks for the question. Lefty, this is your wheelhouse, man. What do you think?
Encarnacion Strand is a great hitter. He's going to come up on a Reds team that's already super hot. I think Encarnacion Strand is positioned well to have a pretty good card spike when he comes up. I would temper an expectation. I would sell maybe one or two of them now to, because his market is good. Just get out, crystallize some of it, but then hold the bigger ones for when, like, get out of some of your lower pop count stuff now, and then ride the hype up on one of the bigger ones. That's what I did with my Indy. I sold the out of I think a month before. I sold the out of $499 refractor and like the sapphire and stuff like that. And then like 2 or 3 weeks before, I sold the out of 25 or out of 50 and then out of 99. And then the week of, I sold the 5 and the out of 25 actually on the same day. So that's what I think, like, get all your money back basically in the lower cards and just let the top ones just run for you.
I like that. And I think it works too, Kenny, because there's no other CES investable cards coming out, right? So like, I think you can go day, like if you're liquidating day of call up or even like the weekend after he makes his debut, like let's say he makes his debut and then there's a couple days and you're running off. I think you're still crystallizing the way that we would want you to, because there's no other competition, there's no other cards of his coming out that create competition. I think in other sports, you can get burned where you might have a prospect and let's say, hopefully Asar Thompson goes off for like a triple double for the Pistons and it's in February. Well, if you're waiting to sell his NBA hoops car, auto a little bit after that, then all of a sudden you've got Don Russ coming out, right? So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. But I think with baseball cards and with your question specifically, I think that's a good call by Lefty. Let's keep it moving. Kurt Settle, premium member, says, I pulled a 1-of-1 Joe Burrow 2022 Contenders standing ovation. I went ahead and set it to PSA and got a 9. When I received it back, the card was loose. Should I send it back and risk more damage to the card or crack the case and keep it in a one-touch? Chad, this is you.
Well, first of all,
never grade a 1-of-1.
Never grade a 1-of-1. Should have left it in the one touch to begin with. The cards moving in the cases, that does happen from time to time. You can send that back to PSA. They will reholder it. If the holder is wrong, customer service will take care of that. I would not crack it. If it's in a 9 case now, I would either sell it as a 9, or if you don't like the fact that it's moving around, I would send it back and get it reholdered and secured. But do not put it back in a one touch. Leave it as the 9 and sell it the way it is.
All right, Kurt. So hopefully that helps. I think I had emailed Kurt back something similar, maybe a little bit different, but I wanted Chad to clarify it since he has way more experience in these scenarios than I do. Chad, Lefty, if either of you have to get to your interns, feel free to drop. Otherwise, we do have a few more questions.
I'm off today. It's my daughter's 14th birthday, so I'm off today, sitting in my luxurious home, as you can see.
Yeah, you're gonna play her some Billy Joel on your piano later.
On the piano, fired up, you bet. Yeah,
awesome. I do have to go though. So
all right, Lefty, get to your intern. Keep it moving. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Chad and I are gonna finish this up. All right, see you, Lefty. Okay, so up next, Buckeye Dill. Our favorite, one of our new favorite premium members, Buckeye Dill. As I start selling more on eBay, I had some questions on selling strategies. First, is there a preference for when to use an auction versus buy it now? For example, does the expected sale value of the card determine which method to use? If you do choose an auction, do you start at 99 cents? I love these questions, by the way. This is great, Buckeye Dill. This is great for everybody. Do you start at 99 cents and run it for 7 days? They ding you pretty good when you set a minimum sale price during an auction. So I'm hoping to avoid paying about the 5 to 7. Is this the reserve maybe that he's talking about, Chad? When you set a reserve, do they ding you 5 to 7? I've never done that.
Yeah, you get charged for a reserve price.
Okay, yeah, I've never done that. I haven't had much success with auctions, but that could be because I haven't had as many views for other higher profile. Or it could, honestly, and don't take this the wrong way, Buckeye Dill, it could be because people aren't as interested in the cards that you. I mean, that was my biggest thing when I first started selling on eBay a few years ago. Was like just my cards just weren't as desirable. So it's a lot about the cards. But anyway, Chad, what other tips do you have for Buckeye Dill here in terms of getting started selling on eBay?
Well, they're great questions. As I mentioned before, you and I are the exact flip opposite when it comes to eBay. You sell almost everything via auction, and I sell maybe 10%, if 10% on auctions. But I've got 1,000+ cards listed on eBay at all time. So I've got more cards listed than probably what you own at any given time.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference as well. But I think that I never set a reserve price. I myself am reluctant to bid on a card that has a reserve price because you don't know if you're wasting your time, if you're even going to get the card. So I don't like bidding on auctions with reserves. I don't ever price them with reserves. You have to know that when you started at $1, the card's going to sell, and you have to be okay with that. Which is why I promote the card to make sure it gets as many eyeballs as possible. So I hope that helps in regards to the reserve part of it. As far as, is there a dollar amount that one sells better than the other? No. The reason that I use the auctions is I sold quite a few of my LE cards on auction versus buy it now for FOMO, for fear of missing out on the top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
LE was climbing so fast that, for example, I put one of my PSA 10s out of LE, and then a guy ended up buying all of them because he bought the one and he's like, "Can I buy them all?" Sure. I said, "Sure," and I sent them off. But the one that I sold ended up being for $25. I sold it at 100, and I thought, man, 100 for a PSA 10 base first, that's awesome. Well, they peaked out at 125. Had I posted that on eBay auctions, that might have done 125, it might have done 130. You just don't know, because when something is super hot, auctions work really well because you oftentimes will get more than you will with a buy it now because you just don't know where to price it at.
Yeah. And I do start my auctions at a price that's close to what I want to get for it. So, for example, if it's a card that I think should sell for $90, I'll typically start the auction at maybe like $25 instead of 99 cents, just because it just expedites where it's going to get to anyway. And it takes some element of risk out of, like, maybe there always is a chance that like that could only get a few bids and maybe it sells for $5. And typically somebody's going to still see it as a low enough starting price point to bid on it anyway. Because like Kendall made the point earlier that like pretty much everybody knows what these cards are going for. So they're okay, say, bidding $24.99 as the opening bid on a $90 card. What I did with like the Wembanyama PSA graded Sports Illustrated for Kids cards is the PSA 7s, I started at like $299 because I wasn't going to start a card that I had seen go for $800 and $900 at 99 cents, only because in the event, Buckeye Dill, you're talking about like, what if it doesn't get as many views for whatever reason, in spite of your best efforts, like it doesn't get that many bids, you are screwed, to Chad's point. If it does sell, like you are expected to, like the buyer's going to pay, you're expected to ship that card. That is the thing that you should do, even if you do kind of get screwed on the price. So I'm not hesitant to start my higher priced cards auctions off at, say, even 50% of what I think they're going to sell for, or what I'm hoping to get for them. So hopefully that helps. Great question. Up next, Mark Smadja, another favorite of ours at nooffseason.com. Hope you had a good week. Saw the show where you answered my questions. Thank you very much once again. I knew even less now than when I bought cards in 2011. I think he's basically saying, like, used to buy cards in 2011, lost a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of things happening in the market that he needs to catch up on. Happy to hear that he got a good deal on the Corbin Carroll lot. We answered his question on an earlier show, I believe the Overflow show, thanks to Dr. Chad and Lefty. Okay. On another note, I received this BGS 7.5 with what seemed like nice subgrades to get a PSA 8. So he's trying to make that bump up half a grade at PSA play, crack and submit. But I don't know how I missed it. Maybe because the surface subgrade is an 8.5, but there's a red dot in the bottom white corner that looks like there would be no way where this would get a PSA 8 and maybe not a PSA 7. Chad, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
What do you think of Mark's question here?
It's a great question for somebody that is just getting back in. First of all, that red dot is a print defect. It has no bearing effect on the surface grade at all. It's not a flaw or a damage to the card. It's a print defect from the red ink up above. So PSA is kind of going away from what they used to do. They used to grade it like this is a 7.5. They might have graded it a 7 or an 8 and then put the in parentheses PD for print defect. They've kind of been going away from that. They just ding it a little bit. I would not crack and resubmit that card. I don't think that you may not get a 7. With the centering, it's also a little bit diamond cut. I don't think that card at PSA is going to do more than a 6, maybe.
There you go, Mark. I think Dr. Chad just saved you some money there. So looking like a relist. I think this could still be a win for you though, because if you list it in August with football hype, you probably get more eyeballs on a Joe Montana. So that's what I'm going to do with mine. I was lucky enough to get, I think I got an 8 on mine. My play there. So Mark, hopefully that helps. Good stuff, Chad. YouTube follower, Ront's dad 7032. This is where Chad said he's buying Russell Wilson. And I said we had a question on this later on in the show. Good time to buy Russell Wilson rookie with Sean Payton in town. I did a little bit of analysis of my own here. His market over the last 365 days, according to marketmoversapp.com, where you can get 20% off for life and a free 14-day trial using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. Russell Wilson's overall market is down 50% across 31 cards, almost 1,000 total sales in the last year, down 50%. So Chad mentioned a bunch of other cards that he's in on for Russell Wilson, and Borusky has a follow-up question here too in a second we'll get to. But to me, the safest buy, the most liquid with the least volatility, would be the 2012 Topps Chrome base PSA 10. It's affordable. If you're betting on Russell Wilson, you've got a liquid card here that you could easily sell if and when it does go up based on player performance. And then Borusky, real quick, had a question here with Russell Wilson. Is the play to go base and grade, or would you consider buying a base PSA 10? I'm buying the base PSA 10. I'm not grading a card that's from 2012, but Chad, am I missing something with that?
No, I'm actually doing both plays. As I mentioned, I bought 6 raw cards over the weekend with the intentions of sending them in and grading them. And I bought 1 base paper PSA 10. I bought 1 Chrome base PSA 10, and then I bought 1 X refractor Chrome PSA 10 over the weekend. So I'm doing both. I think right now the down 50% is a 1-year statistic. he bottomed out the time. That's why I feel like I almost kind of missed the boat, because he bottomed out in December. His cards got so dirt cheap in December, they were damn near free. He's actually, since the first of the year, his cards are up almost 30%. So he's on the rise, which is why I felt like I had kind of missed the boat until my buddy kind of slapped me in the face and said, no, there's a long ways to go with him. Hop back on that train, which is why I did. But I think that there's still a lot of runway. I think you can make money either way. Buying a pre-graded 10 is certainly the safest thing. As Paul mentioned, a 10-year-old card condition of it could be Lord knows what when you get it in hand when you're buying it on eBay. But yeah, Russell Wilson is a play right now.
Make sure it's like super cheap if you're gonna buy it raw. But I'd probably go PSA 10. I'm probably not gonna buy any Russell Wilson just for reasons that I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to stay laser focused on who's in my portfolio and that sort of thing. But then Chase Krim made the point on the Sports Card Strategy Show and Tell that, hey, if a good deal comes along, you should take it. So one more from Borusky and then one more from Shoes, and then we're going to be out. So Borusky's on the Wemby tops now, buy them and grade them in prep for the season. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, but I don't know if you can get them anymore. I wouldn't buy them on the secondary market. I think if you miss the opportunity to buy them, I apologize. I would have missed them too if Lefty didn't text me, which makes me think that maybe we should implement some sort of text service for our premium members where we could text our premium members alerts to go and buy these cards. Let me know what you think about that idea. But yes, I am grading them and I'm going to sell them, probably most of them at the beginning, like when Wemby actually debuts for the Spurs. And then Shoes, I haven't gotten my newest SI for Kids. Shoes is wondering, is anyone grading any of the cards out of the newest SI for Kids? I don't have the newest one yet. In fact, I've been waiting for it to show up in my mailbox. I have no idea. Chad, do you know who's in the newest one?
I don't. The most recent one I have is still the LSU Guell.
Yeah, Angel Reese.
Reese.
Yeah.
And I will say this. So I used to be an SI for Kids subscription person years ago, which is why in the super collector feature article, I had showed off some of the SI for Kids cards still in the full sheets that I had. Those actually used to be cards. I was really bummed out when I got that rate. The Angel Reese was the first one that I got after we re-signed back up. It's like thin paper. They're not even card stock. It was really disappointing, but I can imagine how grade sensitive, as thin as that paper is going to be. I'm scared to death to tear them out. I think I'm just going to sell them as a whole magazine.
You could sell them as a whole magazine and probably make some money. That's a good call. I graded the Angel Reese. So Shoes, as far as I can see, this is the latest one still, because the May, June is the current issue. So the July, August should be coming soon. And I did grade the Angel Reese card to answer your question. So, I did grade a ton of Alyssa Thompson cards, the one next to Wemby. So I think I just had a good experience with the grading of the current cards. And that's why I went ahead and graded the Angel Reese. And my play there is like, I don't expect a huge return on investment from Angel Reese, but she will be a top pick in the WNBA draft in 2024. And so I'll either sell it if LSU makes another run in March and April, or I'll sell it in April when there's the WNBA draft. I think it's still in April. Anyway, Chad, do you have anything else to add for today's show before we sign off?
This is a great show.
2 hours here.
Yeah, great show. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan, for the birthday wishes to my daughter.
Yeah.
Got an action-packed day today for her, so it'll be a fun day.
We'll let you get to it. Happy birthday to your daughter. And everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening to this amazing episode of the best sports card podcast that you could possibly find anywhere. Thanks and have a great day.